What's up, guys? Before I jump into it, I want to let you know that tonight, and hopefully a lot more in the future, I'll be live over on my Twitch channel playing some Warzone with friends, so I'd love to chat further with you all. If you're interested in hanging out, the link will be in the top of the description below. That said, let's jump into the content at hand. It's not crazy to think that the world of Verdansk, otherwise known as the world of Warzone, is subject to change as time progresses. In fact, given the nature of gaming, the massive audience that's already accrued, and the need for more and more updates to keep players wanting to try out new content, it's actually kind of crazy to think that it wouldn't happen. And what's cooler still is that those updates very well could be on such a grand scale, never before seen in the Call of Duty world. Today, I want to discuss with you the recent information that we got about said in-game events, why they'll be happening, what they could utilize, and when we may see them. So with that said, what do you think will be the first main event in Warzone? Do you think it'll be something that ties in with those bunkers that we currently have now, maybe utilizing some sort of nuke event that'll see us take shelter, or something else? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts down below. And as well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Warzone and Modern Warfare content on a daily basis. That's it. Let's jump into it. I think it's important to start off with the knowledge that Warzone, while independent of Modern Warfare's game in some circumstances, available to all and not just those that have the $60 base copy of Modern Warfare, it's not necessarily independent of the Modern Warfare universe and the storyline. The campaign happened, it was phenomenal for those of you guys that haven't played it, but the story was then subsequently supposed to continue on outside of campaign as the year progressed in various different areas. At the end of campaign, it was explicitly stated that it was going to continue into Spec Ops, but also we saw it continue elsewhere in the world of Modern Warfare as well. Most visibly, though, the progress could have been seen with the intro cinematics for each season. For Season 1, we saw the introduction of Mara and Nikto, with the respective factions fighting over the gas canisters on Crash, but when you wait for that ending, you can see that the story directly is translated to the intro cutscene for Spec Ops, where Al-Qatala was rounding up forces and moving in on what was then Verdansk, and we also see that this battle is being watched as it unfolds through monitors at TV station as people are being captured in the background, with one Al-Assad coming into view, watching over the entire thing. In the Season 2 intro cinematic, we saw the introduction of Ghost, but this time much more tied to Warzone and the world of Verdansk. Naturally, though, is because halfway through, we were introduced to Warzone and the entire world at large. In this sequence, we saw that soldiers were firing on each other, previously faction fighters working together are now firing on each other, and this was echoed in the dialogue that Ghost had in his transmission to Price, that they need fighters they can trust, presumably on their own squad, making maybe Ghost having 2 to 3 comrades and being able to jump into trios or quads, depending on which is your preferred taste here at this one. But if you really want to play that speculative game, with 2 more seasons seemingly out there in the wild from previously data mined game files, 2 more plus Alex, that would fill out a quad squad. But all that aside, we had plenty of connections now to where the headquarters of Al-Qatala was in Verdansk, and that it was their home of operation. But what was still left to decipher was that why friends were being turned foe and why the gas was being unleashed in the first place. Season 3's intro cinematic doesn't really give much clarity to that, but instead just kind of makes it more apparent that Ghost is working with Alex. They're those trusted fighters that we can end up seeing, but the future is still relatively uncertain. But what's cool is that this all is according to plan. In a recent interview with VentureBeat, narrative director at Infinity Ward, Taylor Kurosaki, discussed a little bit about the narrative plans for Warzone and how they want to continue this on, perhaps even setting up what may be the next title in what I'd kind of now imagine is the new Modern Warfare saga. Now, what kind of strengthens this and bolsters this idea of a new Modern Warfare saga is that Kurosaki confirmed that seasonal changes will continue to deliver narrative-based installments via cinematics, though we may not necessarily see that just end with Modern Warfare 2019. Again, kind of pushing the boundaries that maybe there will be another follow-up game here that continues this even further. But when asked, is there a period of time where you can see the whole story unfolding? Can players have an expectation around when it will end? Kurosaki replied saying, I would look at it like we're making an episodic TV series. A lot of the time when the showrunners of The Sopranos or Lost or something like that are setting out to tell a story, they're not exactly sure how many seasons the show is going to be on the air. We know where we're going and we know where we're starting from. The question just remains, how long will it take us to get to our conclusion? That's kind of up to the fans. So the way that I get this is that so long as it's enjoyable, so long as it's piquing interest, we may see that story of Modern Warfare continue to unfold, which is pretty cool, not only just in 2019, but also further on here into the relatively near future. Not necessarily immediate future, like 2020's Call of Duty, but maybe 2021, 2022, wherever we may see the next Infinity Ward installment being placed. But what's even cooler still is the narrative cinematics aren't the only thing used to progress the narrative. We got confirmation that there's going to be something much bigger than that. Initially drawing parallels with other games currently that may not necessarily seem to have a storyline but do, Kurosaki mentioned we've talked a lot about in the past whether games like Fortnite have a narrative. I'd say say yes, absolutely. I'd say Warzone does as well, but for me, it's in a genre and a tone that I greatly prefer. But Dean Takahashi from VentureBeat ended up saying there are things you could do with the world. I think of things like Fortnite has done, like the eclipse they had for a couple of days, to which Kurosaki responded and followed up with that, saying that's exactly the kind of thing that we're working on, that we have planned. Again, it's all going to fit into this macro that we've established in Modern Warfare and that we've continued into Warzone. If you know who the players are in Modern Warfare, it'll all make sense and it'll all feel appropriate to the universe. Now, as it stands, that's where our minds could absolutely run rampant with ideas, but it confirms the idea that there are going to be larger in-game events happening that tell the story a little further, that add bits to the narrative at large. And this is actually something that I think is great. We talked about here on the channel that this was mentioned behind the scenes. My personal first-hand experience was whenever this happened, it was mentioned at our pre-release capture event back in mid-February or something for Warzone, where we talked with some developers and they kind of led on that that was the idea. But now to see it actually from the one running the narrative, the one that is building this entire universe out, and to see it as something quotable that you can come back to, not just a, hey, I heard this behind the scenes that I don't know if I necessarily have the clearance to say that's going to happen 100%. To now have it out there in the world is, I think, great. Now, if you were to ask me what this may entail, what we may see come of this, I definitely think at least the first major event that we'll have within the game, whenever that may be, which we'll talk about in a second, when I think it may be, I think this will definitely utilize those bunkers, those phones, those laptops that we found around the Warzone world for the last month. This was something that players were on the case immediately. The keen-eyed Easter egg hunters, of course, found this and definitely started working on it. We know that there is a bunch of them around the map, and they're pretty much all found. I don't think there's anything that's popped up in the last couple of weeks that nobody's found up until that point, so we've known that it was there, and I'm sure people have been plugging away trying to figure it out right now, but it just seems like maybe with the confirmation of this, those just may be there right now and not ready to activate. So I guess the question comes down to, when could they be activated? When could we see our first event happening? To which I think the absolute earliest that we'll end up seeing this happen is maybe the mid-season update. I don't think that I would expect anything to come as of this week, where it's our 2-week out mark from Modern Warfare's 3rd season launch. We've talked about many times that things usually come in 2-week intervals within Call of Duty, and if that's the case, our mid-season update is just 2 weeks following that, on May 5th. So I think that would probably be the better time to expect any larger major shift in terms of content, because that's when we'll have things like a new camo coming, maybe Frankensmithing, maybe a new map as well, maybe a new operator, stuff that we still have coming in season that is going to be saved for, again, that just mid-season content update. You're halfway there, so let's refresh it kind of thing. So I'd expect maybe that's the sort of thing we'd be seeing in terms of the time frame. As for what that may result in the gameplay aesthetic of how the game runs, how it looks, the map, and everything that may be along with that, I'd maybe expect, if that's the case, if that does happen, maybe it gives us a new area or new POI, point of interest, on the map like we saw introduced once or twice within Blackout. Of course, keeping players interested, having new things to check out is integral for keeping something like a free-to-play game that has a very simple gameplay nature about it, keeping those players interested and involved. So maybe we end up seeing a new point of interest come after this game-shifting event. Maybe we see something like the dam break and it introduces a new cutoff of water throughout the map. We'll have to wait and see, but with things presumably being introduced at that time within MP, may also introduce some new things in terms of Warzone content as well for even those free-to-play players. But that said, I'm really excited to see where this may lead. I am absolutely astounded by the fact that we may be able to see things in the Call of Duty universe pull off something as grand as a Fortnite-like event, something that will take the entire world and all the players in that world and let them see that real time. I think that is such a feat of brilliance in terms of game design and engineering. And with Fortnite still being relatively the only one that's pulled that off, for Call of Duty to come in and just swoop in and kind of take that mantle, that'd be a huge win for Call of Duty, I think. But ultimately, I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it's nice again to see all of this confirmed, all of this on record saying that it's gonna happen sometime and maybe sooner than we think. But that said, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. I would love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of this? Are you looking forward to an event? What do you think will happen if said event happens relatively soon? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare and Warzone content, updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff we got you covered here on the channel. So if any of that interests you, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places Spaces to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But that said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.